Hey, what's going on today, guys? My name's Trey. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are here at the Orlando International Airport to ride the Brightline for the very first time. Now we are going to be taking the train from Orlando to Miami. I actually have a 10K to run in Miami this weekend, so I'm super excited for that. But this is the very first time that I've ridden a train in years here in the United States. Now, as most of you know, I've ridden most trains when I lived over in Europe, the TGV, the S-Bahn. I've ridden pretty much every large-scale train system on the European continent, but I'm super excited to see just how trains are coming along here in my home country of the United States of America, in Florida specifically. So stay tuned, let's get into it. Now, going over the history of Brightline, Brightline officially launched passenger service in January of 2018, initially running between West Palm Beach and Fort Lauderdale, with service expanding to Miami by May of 2018. It then became the first privately owned and operated intercity passenger railroad system in the US in well over a century. And in 2020, the company began constructing a major extension from West Palm Beach to Orlando, aiming to serve Florida's tourism corridor. Brightline opened its Orlando station at MCO, also known as the Orlando International Airport, in September of 2023, significantly expanding its reach and appeal. The line now connects Miami to Orlando, covering 235 miles in about 3.5 hours, with speeds reaching up to 125 miles per hour, making it the fastest train in the southeastern United States. And good news, Brightline is actively working on further extensions, including a proposed line to Tampa and a Brightline West project connecting Las Vegas to Southern California, which is currently under development. Brightline represents a significant shift in American rail travel, showing the potential for modern private intercity rail in regions currently underserved by traditional passenger rail. All right, we are headed on the train. First train in the United States since I was like 8 years old. Super excited. Here we go. First time on the Brightline. Haven't been on a train in the United States since I rode the auto train from Sanford, Florida to Lorton, Virginia, which then goes to Washington, D.C. So I'm super excited. All right, we're on board. Alright, so we have been on the train for about an hour or so, and first impressions, this train is extremely clean and it's extremely quiet, and this train is, I want to say, at capacity. I don't have anybody sitting in my row specifically, but this train is full and people are super respectful, super nice. The service is great. People constantly check in on you to make sure that you have everything that you need. And if you're familiar with that drive from Orlando to Miami or South Florida in general, it's a nightmare. One, because you're having to drive, and two, because the traffic. And you don't experience any of that by being on the Brightline. Now, we do have to make 5 stops in total on this trip. The first stop is West Palm Beach, then Boca Raton, then Fort Lauderdale, then Aventura, and finally Miami. That's the only reason why it takes 3.5 hours to get from Orlando to Miami, is because you're making a stop in 4 other cities. So just keep that in mind. But other than that, I'm pleasantly surprised. I don't know if I'll ever drive from Miami to Orlando, and I'm super excited because I think they're actually going to extend this route into Tampa, which will be really nice because I-4 is the worst thoroughfare in the country. I kid you not, look it up. It is the most dangerous place to drive in the country, possibly the world. So once that goes from Orlando to Tampa, and then Tampa to South Florida, sky's the limit for the state of Florida. right, we have officially made it to Miami. That was super simple, and wow, that was such a surprise. I've seen some sort of mixed reviews about the Brightline, but I gotta say, my experience was flawless, and I'm actually really excited for the ride back, and I am gonna document that as well. This is only part one of the video, so I'm gonna go over here and meet up with my cousins. We're gonna have a fun time here in Miami, so stay tuned. I'll see you on the way back.
Greatness from yourself. You got it.
Hey y'all, so today's my last day in Miami. I realized late last night that it would probably make a lot of sense for me to just leave out of Aventura versus taking the drive south about an hour into Miami, because the Aventura station is only about 15 minutes from where I am. So I did call up Brightline and just ask, hey, would it make a big difference if I just boarded in Aventura? And they told me, unfortunately, that I would have to cancel my entire booking and rebook different tickets leaving out of Aventura. And since I had the rep on the phone, I also decided to ask for future purposes, hey, if I'm coming from Orlando to Miami, am I going to get penalized if I get off at Boca Raton or if I get off at Fort Lauderdale or Aventura? And the rep on the phone, I'm not sure if this was true or not, but he told me that that would not be possible. I'm thinking back to when I disembarked from the train. I didn't scan out when I was in Miami, so I really don't understand how they have a way of knowing that you got off at a different station. So I'm still a little bit confused on that, but really that's the only complaint that I have so far, is not being able to just board from another city. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for me. So Brightline, if you just so happen to watch this video, I do think you should create a new policy. If you have a round trip ticket, which is what I had, I do think you should be able to board from a different city, within reason, of course, right? Aventura and Miami are pretty close in hindsight from a railroad perspective or from a train perspective. So I really don't think that the consumers should be penalized just because they are boarding from a city that's really only in theory 30 miles apart. So make that change, and I think that this train will 110% be flawless. A real quick story on a situation that happened to me when I lived in Germany. So I remember one time I accidentally booked train tickets at the wrong airport in Frankfurt at the time, and Deutsche Bahn actually let me board at the station that I was at. There was no issues. I didn't even have to check in with anybody. They were like, you're good, you bought the ticket, you can leave from this station. It's completely fine. So I really do think that Brightline should implement that. Maybe it might just be me, being spoiled by the European train system and just how smooth it is. I know it's got the time issues and whatnot, but I really do think that Brightline should implement that policy, because it'll really set them apart and really set a great standard and precedent here in the United States. So it is Monday morning. I am going to finish up my workday, and then I'm going to go meet a friend for lunch, and then we're going to take that hour-long drive down into downtown Miami, which, if you are familiar with Miami, the construction is off the charts there right now. So we're going to brave that traffic. And then once we get down there, I'm going to give you a little bit of a tour of the actual Brightline station in Miami, because I was in and out of there so quickly because I was just trying to get up here and spend time with my family. So yeah, I will see you in Miami. Made it to the Brightline station here in downtown Miami. We've got about 30 minutes until my train leaves, so I'm gonna get checked in, do a little bit of tour of the building just to see the differences between Miami and Orlando. So let's head in here, check it out. All right, I made it up to the train, so I got told inside not to film. I don't argue with private businesses, but It's like I'm literally telling you I have a YouTube channel, just trying to share how great this experience is, not hurting anybody. They didn't want to hear it, so let's head in the train. Now, to answer the question in the title of this video, is the Brightline still worth it in 2025? I would undoubtedly say yes. Does it have its flaws? Of course it does. But are they minimal? The answer is 110% yes. The amount of convenience and getting a chance to just relax while a train conductor does all of the legwork on the trip from Orlando down to South Florida is just incredible, and one of the most convenient experiences in the state of Florida, and really one of the more convenient experiences in the United States when it comes to travel. All right, everyone, we have made it back here to MCO in Orlando, aka the Orlando International Airport, whatever you want to call it. Trip was super simple. I can't believe I've waited this long to take advantage of the Brightline. You know, I know the United States doesn't have the best train system, especially when you're comparing it to anything in Europe or Southeast Asia. We are light years behind both of those places. But if this is the ground floor, I'm super excited to see where train travels here moving forward, because the Brightline is definitely a step in the right direction. So thank you all for joining. I know we had some issues that arose, but it wasn't too bad at the end of the day. So headed to New York in about a week or so stay tuned for that. Thank you all for the continued love and support. I'm gonna go get some rest. Take care. Bye.